How did the American cowboy actually live? You might be surprised by what it took to wrangle cattle across the range. In the late 1800s, cowboys were hired hands on large ranches in the American West. They tended to the ranch's most valuable assets, its cattle, and life on the range was tough, even for the most experienced cowboys. The romantic notion of the cowboy as an outlaw or a gunslinger only really took hold in American culture after the Wild West had ended. But in reality, cowboys worked in groups. On big ranches, there might be as many as 50 cowboys working together to move a herd of cattle. They traveled with their horses and on foot, driving the cattle before them. After all, they were working long and hard hours. When they weren't tending to the cattle, they were busy making sure their horses were fed and watered. Most cowboys were young men, and the work was physically demanding. It was also incredibly lonely, and there wasn't much opportunity for advancement. But for those who liked working outdoors and didn't mind the solitude, life on the range could be rewarding. Cowboys developed a deep connection with their horses and the wide open spaces of the West, and for many of them, it was a way of life. But during the 19th century, the vast majority of cowboys were hard-working ranch hands. And don't forget to stay tuned for more videos like this one. See you next time. They didn't really have much time for gunslinging or adventuring. They were working 6 days a week, often 12 hours a day. The first thing you need to know about cowboys is that they weren't just gunslinging, horse-riding adventurers. When you picture a cowboy, you probably imagine a lone rider on horseback. Where they went, they were on their own. Cowboys didn't travel with supplies. They were expected to forage for their own food and make their own meals over an open fire. Sometimes they supplemented their diet with dried meat called pemmican, which they carried with them at all times. In between bites, they'd spit into the fire, and when night fell, they'd gather around the flames to cook their supper. If they were lucky, they'd catch fish to eat. Otherwise, they were probably chewing on some jerky. There wasn't a lot of time for socializing around the campfire, though. And then there was the weather. Cowboys faced extreme temperatures, blizzards, floods, and scorching sun. They also had to contend with wild animals, from biting ants to stampeding bison. It was dangerous work, and the occasional injury or death was a grim reality of life on the range. But despite all these hardships, life as a cowboy was considered better than the alternatives. Now you know what it took to be a cowboy in the 19th century.